Predatory mental health practitioners love to spew out the idea that because you've been a certain way for a really long time, that it's also going to take a really long time for you to make any meaningful or lasting change in your life. And the problem with that is that it actually sounds very believable, because you think about building a building. You've built this structure, you have this building that looks a certain way and that has certain features, and to turn that into something completely different would take a lot of time. It takes a lot of coordination, a lot of effort, a lot of hands on the job in order to turn that into something else. A lot of planning, and the problem is that your brain doesn't actually work that way. Your brain is not necessarily just a physical structure. Your unconscious mind is also an energetic structure. And so you can actually build habits and build ways of thinking, being, doing, having, all in a single instant. You can go from being in the habit of not grabbing an oven mitt to being in the habit of grabbing an oven mitt with just one moment of burning your hand inside the oven. So as soon as you experience that pain and you touch the inside of that oven, you're like, ooh, I don't like this. You grab the oven mitt, and then you do that every single time you interact with an oven from that point on. It just happens in an instant. You learned in a single instant. And your brain actually can do this with a lot of different things. So if you're in the habit of being anxious and having social anxiety, and this is a way that you've been doing things over and over because you're actually just in the habit of projecting something in the future turning out in a way that you don't want. So when you're interacting with someone out in a social environment and you're going to be approaching them and try to strike up a conversation, you're in the habit of already believing that you're not safe in that situation. But you can change the way that your perception is around that event to where you can actually just expect the best thing to happen. You can expect that all the best, most positive and supportive things are going to happen as a result of you making this approach and you going and interacting with this person. That, like, what's the best, most positive and supportive thing that could possibly happen here? And if you believe that that is going to be the thing that's going to happen, you don't have the context for creating anxiety anymore, because there's no reason for your unconscious mind to generate the anxiety. It's not anticipating a negative thing happening in the future. It's anticipating positive things happening in the future. That's all anxiety actually is. And you can change the way that your brain is perceiving that event in a single instant. The whole time that it takes to go from being angry to not being angry is just you getting ready to not be angry anymore. So let me use another example. So if your best friend sleeps with your girlfriend, now you have had this whole structure around how you interact with your best friend. You joke with them, you feel very, very comfortable around them, you can tell them anything, you're really fast at coming up with jokes, you feel very, very much at ease. There's all these great things and great feelings about when you hang out with your best friend. You have a map, a territory of how you interact in this situation when you are with this person. And the moment that you realize, the moment that you learn that this person slept with your best friend, this person slept with the love of your life, your girlfriend, for example, well, now your entire perception of that person has changed. You're likely not going to feel safe around them. You're likely going to react and behave differently the next time you see them. The type of things that you think about, the type of ways that you feel, the type of things that you're going to say are all completely different. It's like a completely different reality, all from perceiving them in a different way. All it took was one thing happening, one piece of information entering your awareness that completely changed all of your behavior, all of the ways that you think, all the ways that you feel, all of your belief systems, all just changed because your perception on this one thing, on this one person, completely changed. So learning, behavior, change is all unconscious, and it can all happen in an instant. And that's the problem, is that a lot of mental health practitioners actually don't really actually take the time to understand or think about how is it that someone can go from behaving and thinking and feeling one way in an event and they can have this one event completely change the trajectory of their life and change how they behave in a certain situation. So like when someone generates a phobia, for example, like psychology textbooks will say that it takes, I think like 30, I'm trying to remember like the last, I think it's like 25 to 30 years for someone to overcome a phobia. And they can have one single event that they had where they experienced such an intense fear that they generated a phobia around that thing. So like I helped someone in this group, this guy had a phobia of bridges because of one event that happened when he was 7 years old. And this, like he remembers like this rushing water, it was really intense for him. And so now he has this phobia of bridges to the point where he was not even able to like cross them. And he, like, if he had to walk across a bridge, it was just like not happening. And this is a guy who lives in New York, and like there's a lot of bridges in New York. So that severely limits his life experience if he has such an intense fear around bridges. And all it took was that one event happening to where his behavior around bridges and the way that he reacts and responds, the way he thinks, all is impacted around this one event. Well, if you can have one event that is so intense, so emotionally traumatizing that it changes your entire personality, it changes your entire personality and the way that you behave and react in certain situations. If you can have something that intense happen in a single instant, and then it affects you for the rest of your life, for the next 25 or 30 years, why can't you then have another event happen that is also equally intense to reverse that same thing happening? Why is it that you have to have an event be so bad and so negative that it affects you in an instant, but you can't experience something that's so amazing and positive that it flips it back around? The truth is that you can. And I helped this guy release his phobia, and it took about like 6 minutes. So 6 minutes of going through a process about tapping into the unconscious mind and understanding how the unconscious mind actually works to reverse and break apart the boundaries that he has around that original event, to blow out the baggage so that way he's not containing it in this way any longer. And then he can almost like not even believe that he ever had the phobia. It almost seems ridiculous because, it is ridiculous, but it's not. Like, it's very real inside his mind, inside his unconscious mind. But when he actually breaks apart the boundaries around that event, all it took was just a few minutes in a restructuring, re-perceiving the event from a different perspective, and then his perspective on the event changes, and now he doesn't have to apply that projection onto bridges any longer, and now he's able to walk across a bridge, drive across bridges, and be completely at ease around bridges, all because his perspective changed. And all it took was a single instant. And so it's just a matter of the process. And I say predatory mental health practitioners because it's not like all of them are bad. It's not like all therapists or psychiatrists or whatever are bad. I mean, there's even a lot of coaches who are very ineffective. And it's not that they're necessarily bad, but there is a system. This is just my opinion. I'm going to give an opinion here, okay? So for YouTube and people listening, this is just an opinion, but in my opinion, there is a structure, a systemic structure that psychologists, there was a time where they were not making a lot of money. And hypnosis at the time was like the go-to for a lot of mental health concerns, because you could create change very, very quickly, very rapidly. All it takes is like a few minutes and someone can make a lot of really fast and lasting change. But psychologists at the time were mainly working in universities, not really making a lot of money. And so what happened was they got to adopt a different way of helping people, which was the psychotherapy, talk therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, where Freud was the one who kind of introduced his psychotherapy. And it was not meant to be for the poor, because it was going to take months or years for someone to create lasting change, because he actually was not a fan of hypnosis. And so the So the psychotherapy was meant to be something that was going to be not for the poor, because the only people who could actually afford to go, they had to use a lot more of the practitioner's time. So we have to show up. We talk for a week. We talk 1 week for like an hour, and then you talk about things, and then you leave, and then you come back next week, and we talk again for an hour, and then you leave, and then you come back next week, and we talk again for an hour. So it's a thing that takes a really, really long time for someone to make any lasting change, because you're not doing change work with them. You're not tapping into the workings of the unconscious mind, where the learning and the behavior changes, like that's where it actually happens. You're not tapping into that. You're just talking to the conscious mind. So when you're consciously learning something, it takes a lot of repetition. It takes a lot of time for that to actually sink in. Whereas before, when you're working with the unconscious mind, you could do that in a very, very fast manner. So it's predatory in the sense that it's meant to generate more money, because you get to charge per hour, you get to charge for your time, and you get to have people come back and keep coming back. And the whole structure around it is meant to just be something that you have repeat clients and repeat customers, repeat business, always coming in through the practice. And as long as they're getting just a tiny bit of change and a tiny bit of progress, then they're happy to pay, they're happy to keep coming back. And to me, it's really just unethical when it's possible, and I've seen it and I've done it, and I've been able to help people create lasting change in just a few minutes. I can help someone let go of liking a food, for example. Like there's this girl that I was helping, she was a bodybuilder, she is a bodybuilder, and she was competing for physique. And one of the things that was kind of preventing her from getting as lean as she wants to be is the Reese's Fast Break that she really, really loves. So I helped her let go of liking Reese's Fast Break. Like she couldn't go to the store and see Reese's Fast Break and not buy it because it's just so good. And I was able to help her just stop liking it, and it took like 15 to 20 minutes. It's just a process. It's about tapping into the unconscious mind. We can do this with beliefs. We could do this with negative emotions. We could do this with anxiety. We could do this with our value system and our values hierarchy, how we spend our time and how we evaluate the time that we spend. So all of those things can all happen in an instant. It's just a matter of tapping into the unconscious mind, understanding how it works, and what sort of processes does it have to go through in order to make that change. And that is the ethical way of doing things, because if it's fast and it works and it's lasting, then why aren't we just doing that? Why are we dancing around all this other bullshit and stretching it out just so we can make a few extra dollars? That to me seems very unethical, and that to me is also very predatory. Why is it that we have to prescribe people some sort of ingestible thing that changes like the neurochemistry and the chemistry of their body to just be completely sedated and kind of poison them in the process, because they just get a good feeling out of just ingesting this thing right now, when their brain can actually just generate an organic and natural change without having to ingest the thing. Like, why aren't we just using the tools that God gave us? Like, God gave us our brain. God gave us our unconscious mind. Hypnosis is a gift from God. I'm reading the book Hypnotherapy right now by Dave Ellman, and he's like one of like the top G's of hypnosis and hypnotherapy. He was like so incredible because he was teaching doctors and dentists how to do anesthesia with hypnosis and helping someone make something completely numb without any drugs at all. He's like, hypnosis is a gift from God. The fact that we can use our own minds to make a part of our body completely numb and be able to operate on it without any pain, and be able to give suggestions for fast healing and less complication, and the body just responds in like kind. And so why aren't we using these gifts that are given to us without needing to poison ourselves with it? So that in my opinion is the predatory side of a lot of the mental health practitioners right now. And it doesn't really need to be that way. So I just wanted to share a little bit about that, is that your change in letting go of anxiety and not being socially anxious anymore is not a thing that you have to go through all these hoops, jump through all these hoops and go through all these like processes for years and months, and like exposure therapy where you just re-traumatize yourself over and over and spend all that energy and all that mental capital and emotional capital and time capital, when you could actually just do the release work and let it go and be over it just today. So if you want to experience something like letting go of anxiety, because like I said, it's just a future-based fear of something turning out in a way that you don't want. So if you want to re-perceive that future event in which you think you're anxious right now, and you want to re-perceive it in a different way, so that way all the anxiety just goes away, and you want to see what that's actually like, go ahead and click the link in my bio at badatanxiety.com. You can get into a free training. There's a free training just right on that page. You can just watch the whole training without even putting in your email, and I show you exactly how to do it. But you can opt in, and I'll actually give you the release process, and so that way I'll guide you through it, and you can get the audio recording and just put in some headphones, sit down, close your eyes, and go through that process. It takes about 8 minutes, and you can re-perceive that future event and watch the anxiety completely melt away and not come back totally for free. So click the link in the bio right now, get into that training. I'll teach you exactly how to do it, exactly how it works, why it works, and then you can listen to the recording and experience an anxiety release and notice how fast and how easy it was the whole time. Your unconscious mind is a gift, and we have been learning how it works and how to tap into it, and in ways that you can create really, really fast and lasting change and not need to jump through all these hoops and go through all this bullshit and all these predatory practitioners who are just trying to drag it out and get as much money from you as possible. So click the link in the bio, be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next video.